Okay, good. Let me get started. Hi, everyone. Greetings to you. This is Coach Toyin. Welcome to today's webinar. We do have this engagement running on different platforms. So different people are joining from different platforms. And so I see those joining. Welcome. So today, this webinar is particular to the work we do at Nazaru, Growing African Exports with Diaspora Collaboration. Okay. Growing African Exports with Diaspora Collaboration. So for those who may not be familiar with my work and the work we do at Nazaru, I'm Toyin Umesiri. I'm the founder and CEO of Nazaru, the convener of Trade with Africa Business Summit. I'm also the author of Mindset of an Entrepreneur and also the founder of the Entrepreneurs Academy. I sit on a council by US appointment, driving also US exports. So when it comes to bilateral trade, this is something that we're heavy on. So whether you're looking to enter the African continent with your products and services, or you're on the African continent and you are seeking exports, okay, whether it's regional exports or international global exports. So those are the things that we provide to our clients and students as well. So greetings everyone again. So why is this webinar, the series of webinars we're hosting over the next couple of years, why is it so important? Over the years, as we've continued to engage different stakeholders across, the board, whether it's global leaders, whether it's ambassadors, government stakeholders, or investors, or business stakeholders, buyers, exporters, importers, trade facilitators, consultants, across the board, right? Even the classes and the courses and the master classes, the education that we provide to enlighten, to educate people, because we are ahead of the pack in a way. We are leading the industry, right? In fact, one of the jokes is that this industry, right, is pretty much immature, but we're helping to mature it and fast track it as well. So what I have found is that the number one issue, okay, there are many things. If you followed and a lot of the papers and white papers and things we've put out there, the first thing is that the proximity, being in proximity of the stakeholders that matter to your success is the number one gap. Okay, being in proximity, because when it is time to trade, okay, when it is time to trade by nature is an exchange. Okay, when it is time to trade by nature is an exchange, it's a transaction. And so when you are engaging in a transaction, you need to be in proximity, you need to be in close proximity, you need to be in the same space, whether it's a virtual space or is a physical space. And typically we talk about marketplaces, right? A market is where the transactions happen, where buyers and sellers meet to exchange goods and services. So the number one challenge in this landscape, in maturing this landscape of trade with Africa, is proximity. Being in the right place with the right people so that you can have the right conversations. Because what we've found is that people are having conversations in silos with themselves. Exporters are meeting, having conversations. Importers are meeting, having conversations. Diaspora are meeting. Investors are meeting. People engage in silos. And when it is time to trade, you have to exchange. You have to come together. So that's one of the reasons we host events, our summits, our programs, our platforms, is that what we found is that as long as you are by yourself, you cannot trade. The person who needs what it is that you have, the person that can help you be successful in your business, if you are not in community with them, if you're not able to have a conversation with them, you cannot build trust, right? You cannot build a relationship that is strong enough to lead to a transaction. Nothing happens. So what we have found is that part of the immaturity in the supply chain is that the chain is broken, and the people who ought to be linking hands to each other and collaborating and partnering to advance the movement of goods and services, they are disconnected. So the first disconnection is human disconnection. Okay, the first disconnection is human disconnection, and one of the disconnection is that we're talking about today is the diaspora disconnection. How the homeland is not seriously in partnership and engaged with its diaspora. So what I've found, and I know you've probably found this as well, you find that those on the continent, on the homeland, they continue to attempt to export to foreign lands that they know nothing about. Whenever I teach trade and investment facilitation and export strategy, here's the key. Your local market, the regional market, the international market, they follow different behavior, they follow different patterns, they follow their different instruments of trade, their different mindsets behind it. And so when those on the continent attempt to penetrate a market, it's like you're entering a market blindly with no information, no relationships, no understanding of what the expectations are. This is the biggest struggle. And the diaspora is able to close the gap. But I also realize that the diaspora as well is not paying attention and is not actively building relationship with the homeland. A type of relationship that is not tied to remittances, but that is tied to trade and investment. You will see that the maturity of the relationship of the diaspora with the continent is primarily tied to remittances, and that also has to mature, right? That's why I always talk about the infancy of this. We're still at the very infancy of growing this space, and behavior has to change, mindset has to change. And one of the things is that you have to be in proximity. If you're by yourself, there's only so far you can go, particularly in the international regional. Partnerships and collaboration is the only way you're going to grow. It's the only way. You can't do it by yourself because you're going to stretch your resources thin. You don't have the knowledge. You may have the knowledge of where you are, how business is done in your city, in your state, wherever you're operating right now. But trust me, you don't have the knowledge base, you don't have the relationships, or even of the capacity to go beyond where you are. So the number one issue we've seen that is not allowing growth in this space is proximity. Are you in proximity? Are you in community with the people that can help you succeed in business? Are you having the conversations with the people? Are you building the relationships? Are you building the knowledge? Are you also attracting people who can buy what it is you want to sell? And so what we found out we've been doing a lot of is bringing people together, and not just bringing them together, because that can be the first stage. But what we've also realized is that knowledge, education of how to trade, how to export, right? The expectation wherever you're trying to take your product and services, right? It has to be met. We've had people attempting to export and the exports being rejected. Absolutely, because there are standards. Every new market you want to enter with your product and services has standards. They have expectations. Okay? What we also say is that there are roles, R-O-L-E-S. There's the exporter role, there's the importer role, and then there's this space of service providers, people who enhance the delivery of products and services. And so when trade has to happen of products and services, there's the person who is bringing the value, but you also have to make sure that the person who receives, for example, who imports, okay, the practice of imports, there's a discipline, there's a knowledge that is required to successfully import a product and service. There's also knowledge tied to exportation. So when we think about bilateral trade, so let me break it down, and I'll give time for Q&A, okay? Over audio, video, text, right? You can type, you can come in when I'm done with this presentation, and then we'll engage in discussion as well. So what we have found is that roles, R-O-L-E-S, when people don't focus on enhancing and improving their roles, they want to do everything, nothing really happens. because you are stretched thin. When collaboration happens is where everybody knows their role and everybody is playing their role with excellence. So what is the role of the exporter? And when I talk about exporter, there are two opportunities. You could be on the African continent looking to export products and services out of the continent, within the continent under AFCFTA regionally or internationally. Or you could be, say, in the diaspora like I am, looking to export into the continent, onto the continent. When we talk about importer roles, it could also be either way, but there are responsibilities tied to each role. There are activities, there are tasks that must be completed by the exporter and the importer, and there is knowledge required to do both successfully. So another challenge that we see is lack of knowledge. Those who want to attempt to participate in these activities, however, they do not know the how. How do I clear customs, right? What are the requirements for agricultural products? How do I package this? How do I brand this? How do I distribute it? How do I find a buyer? How do I find a distributor? There are so many questions that are on people's minds, and we've brought the answers together. That's one of the reasons we are hosting this webinar and a series of weekly webinars to come as well. And our classes and courses are also available. They are packed full of education, the insights you need to be able to achieve success in these spaces. So what is the role of the exporter? If you are the diaspora, are you exporting? For example, here in the US, do you want to export US-made products to the continent? If you are the diaspora, do you want to import African products that is in demand here in the US, whether it's apparel or shea butter, right? Or even potato starch or cassava. We've had so many, or spices, so many things, ginger, all of those things. Anything that is in consumption, that is in demand, gives you an opportunity to grow your export business. So think about this. The diaspora serves as a bridge, particularly when those on the continent want to export, for example, here in the US or the UK market, right? Or the European at large, or Canada or Mexico, is that the diaspora now has to master. This is the challenge for diaspora. In order for you to be useful, relevant to the transformation of the continent vis-a-vis trade, you have to invest time in mastering and understanding and deepening your knowledge of how to import and how to export. And if you don't, then there's a missed opportunity to help those on the continent achieve economic development. There's a huge gap. The reason is because those on the continent, in a way, I see the struggle. They are working seriously hard. I work a lot with those on the continent. You can see the attempt. You can sense the frustration. You can see the gaps. They are ready to work. They are ready to do their part. They are ready to aggregate. They are ready to export, but there's only so far they can go, particularly when resources are tight. I think the diaspora can meet those on the continent halfway in. You can be the one closing the gap, the knowledge gap, the skill gap. And so what I want to encourage people to do today, if you're on the continent and you're an exporter, start investing in building meaningful diaspora relationships within the context of trade and investment, not just remittances, right? Sending money to sustain. We're talking about trade and business growth, legacy, impact, supply chain, business, commerce, right? Multiplying that money, right? So the diaspora, as you continue to send remittances, right, that money is not multiplying, it's meeting the needs of the day. But when we want the money to multiply, then we get into trade and investment transactions. So we have some resources ready for you on the platform. the Trade and Investment Facilitation Masterclass, the Export Development under AGOA, meaning exporting into the US under the Trade Policy, African Growth and Opportunity Act, the supply chain considerations, how to price, what products to import, what's going to sell, what's in demand, how to distribute, how to package, how to get retail ready. There's also the African Market Entry Masterclass. You can start with that if you want to enter the African continent. So I want to open this to discussions. I want to learn what your experiences have been. So I'm going to invite a few people up. Let's move into more of an interaction mode. If you're available, this is your opportunity to ask a question, to engage as well. And those on the other platforms, I see people joining. Thank you for being here. And awesome. Okay, you can hear me clear. Okay, also, Uncle, like you can also type, what are the questions on people's minds? We've heard a lot, but for you to maximize this opportunity, are you currently exporting? Are you currently importing? What are the barriers? What have you experienced? What are the challenges? What questions are on your minds? Are you currently a service provider? Are you a shipping company? Right? Those are some of the questions, right? We also know that the youth is also exploring, right, how to participate in trade. What's the role of the youth? We have other sessions that will come up on later dates that will dive into empowering the youth to also grow trade, right? So what we found is that there are people currently actively attempting to export. Some have failed in the past. Some are attempting to try it again. We've also seen many people wanting to explore what are the opportunities. So I've written about this before. I've shared about it before. 5 businesses you can start, right? That is part of Trade with Africa. And this information is so important, even for the diaspora as well. When you think about China-Africa trade, many of the trade transactions has been heavily facilitated, right, through the diaspora in China, running the containers, the shipping company, the logistics side of it. So there's a lot of opportunities in the logistics space, right? When demand, so the first thing is demand and supply. What's in demand on the continent that you want to export to the continent? What is in demand, right, outside of the continent that the continent can serve, right? Because what's in demand is what people are ready to buy. What's in demand are what people are ready to invest in. So when you think about demand, so if you're somebody right now just exploring, right, how to engage in exports, whether you're at the diaspora or you're joining from the continent, and we have different people on different platforms, okay? So basically, part of the journey is asking yourself, what is in demand? Okay? What is in demand is a clue for business success. So what is in consumptions? What are people currently interested in buying? Right? Not just selling, because part of the gap also in this space is that I found out that many people, particularly on the continent, they are attempting to sell things that are not in demand. And when we talk about demand signals, what may be in demand where you are at may not be in demand where you want to take your products to. So demand is always a function of the market where sales has to happen. Demand is a function of the people, right, that will buy your product, not you. We've seen this. Many people would say, I want to export this. I want to export this. Nobody cares what you want to export. You have to know this. Your job as a business person, as an entrepreneur, is to find what people are ready to buy. Not just what you want to export, but what people are ready to buy. So the market intelligence, this is where we talk about market intelligence. your understanding of consumer behavior, of demand signals, is more important for you to understand, to say, this market, whether it's the US, whether it's the African country, whether it's Europe, what are people buying and selling that I can be a supply to? Are they buying and selling spices, ginger, shoes, belts? Okay, I want to be a supply to a demand. That's the fastest, quickest way to achieve success. And we included a lot of those things in the Export Development Masterclass, which you can purchase and access at www.nazaru.trade. Nazaru is Nazaru.trade. It's an entire community of business and government stakeholders, right? Really, it's buyers and sellers engaging, talking, engaging, building relationships, and also assessing what the opportunities are. It's also supported by our events, our masterclasses, our programs, our facilitation services as well. So basically, demand is important. Understanding demand, understanding consumer behavior, understanding also the logistics, how products move from point A to point B. There's also need for you to dive into the world of pricing. Okay, so when you think about pricing, from one location to the other is different because the market, okay, the market is different. The size of the market, currency change is different. The perception of value is also different. There are certain things that are perceived with different value in one space than the other. And so you find out that people are ready to pay more or less for products and services depending on the market you're operating in. So for example, here in the US, there are certain things that hold certain types of value and certain people will pay premium for it. The same is true on the continent, but also factor in income, the income wage gap as well. Right? Is that because the reason this is important, and it's part of the masterclass, how to price, right? Is that just because you see something priced, let me give an example, as $9.99 in the US, and you're on the African continent, and you're going, whoa, $9.99 is a good deal for this product compared to what I'm able to sell it here. What you have forgotten to factor in is the cost of running a business here, the cost of transportation here, the cost of warehousing here, the cost of labor here, right? Is that the cost of labor, the cost of transportation, the cost of warehousing, the cost of packaging, the cost of distribution. Just as you're seeing one as $9.99, and maybe on the continent you're seeing it as $1.99, and you're going, if I export this, I can make a lot of money. You want to do your number, you want to crunch your numbers, because you also need to know that running a business in the US or in the UK is more expensive. The overhead is more expensive. The shipping, the logistics costs, they're more expensive than on average wherever you are on the continent. I see that many people don't make that distinctions. They just look at the price and they conclude that if they attempt to export, they would make a lot of money. It's not always true, right? What is true, however, is that if you focus the next 1 or 2 years to streamline the supply chain, the upfront capital intensive process of establishing a new trade line is expensive. However, once you streamline it by year 4, year 5, over time, you will make money through volume, as example. So it depends on what it is you're selling. So I'm saying avoid making an apples oranges comparison. You want to avoid that. Okay, you want to avoid thinking that the price of something in the market, you're seeing it as $9.99, $59.99, right? You're seeing the price and then you're jumping to a conclusion that says, if I export, we will make money. You want to crunch your number and actually assess what is the cost to export. Okay, so I'm going to invite more people who may want to ask specific questions or also share their experiences as well. Okay, so let's bring more people up. If you want to ask questions, greetings, welcome. How are you today? Can you attempt to speak? Okay, he left. So Tom Abila was joining before. So let's try it again. You can actually, this platform allows you to engage. This webinar platform allows you to engage. So if you have a question, leverage this opportunity, because what I know is that many people ask us questions privately. And when I create this type of forum, an open forum for you to ask questions, this is part of the challenge, guys. You need to learn how to ask questions and seize the moment. Okay, I see B Nikki. B Nikki, are you able to come on the platform? I see it says skill and knowledge gap. Yes, 100%. 100%. There's the proximity gap. Are you in community? Can they find you? Can you find them? The people that will help you be successful. Because trade is not a one-man business. The day you step into international trade development, regional trade development, you need to realize it's not a one-man show. It's not. This is one of the gaps. You have to learn and invest in communities that serve as a marketplace where you can sell, where you can present your product and your services, where you can buy, where you can transact. Okay, you can also use the chat space to type your questions. Okay? Because the conversations you have, introducing yourself, getting people to know who you are, is a requirement for business. If I don't know you, if I don't feel comfortable with you, if I don't trust you, I'm not doing business with you. That's another gap. It's a gap. Nobody does business with people they don't know, right? Because the risks are higher. If you're in your local market that people can see you, touch you, build relationship with you, they know your office physically, then trust is almost, imposed, right? But once you start going into regional exports, going to another country, cross-border transactions, going to, right, beyond your region, international, your ability to deepen trust, your ability to establish trust quickly, okay, is a must. And part of it is showing up. When people don't show up to ask questions, to engage, they miss the opportunity to also introduce themselves to the world. Okay, before you introduce your products and services, you actually have to introduce yourself to the world. It's a requirement. And maybe that's another gap, is that if the world cannot see you, if diasporas cannot see you, they cannot buy from you. So if you're on the continent and you have a product and service in your hands, you have a bag, you have a shoe, you have products, you have things you want to take to the marketplace, you have to present it. You have to tell the world what you're selling. You have to present what it is you can do for them. This is a fundamental. And this is, let me also say, this is why I had to build a separate training ground, the Entrepreneurs Academy. Because trade is the Olympics of business. It's the more advanced, it's the most advanced stage of business development. And many people, transparently, have never built a business before, and they are attempting to participate in international trade, and they don't have the foundation of business development. It's a gap. So if you're in the diaspora and you now willingly, you want to step forward and you want to engage and you want to participate in exports, please realize you need to strengthen your business acumen, branding, marketing, sales, right? Because if you buy and you import and now you don't know how to distribute and sell, you're stuck. Your money is stuck. So that's another gap we've seen not just the knowledge of exports, but the underpinning knowledge of business development, because that is required for you to build on. Cross-border transaction exports is more sophisticated, more advanced, because you're dealing with trade policies. It's so much more than just Binit. Hi, Biniki. Good to see you.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Good
Hi.
morning. So,
Yes.
so far,
This is
I
my
think
topic.
this is your topic. Yes, yes, yes. You've gone through classes and programs, and you are okay. I'll let you introduce yourself. So I don't want to take that. You introduce yourself.
All right. Yeah, I'm an African fashion designer based in the Jersey, US, but also I'm involved in agricultural value chain. So we are verge of like producing stuff from Nigeria and for export purpose. So what you're talking about is because I'm just between, I'm here in New Jersey, I'm between the people down home and here. And this is really very particular to me. I'm thinking of listening to this again and again and again. So my challenge is the knowledge gap and the skill gap, trying to bring people up to speed, to space as per, mindset of how they see, you know, the mindset of like who an investor is. This person is coming, to bring their money so we can multiply, you understand, and produce, and give ROI, you understand. So I'm trying to let them know that we have a lot of training to do when it comes to knowledge and skill. It's really it's bothering me
Okay. So
because
let's
all right.
go on,
I'm
please.
listening.
No, go
Because
on.
they are not getting it. You understand? They are really not getting it. I don't know how to push it down their throat that okay, it's different from how we see it. You see an investor as somebody who coming to help. No, this person is coming in to invest,
And make money.
for their own gain too. So I don't know how to go about that.
Okay, I love what you're saying because it's very, very practical. So let's break it down. You're an African in diaspora.
Mm-hmm,
You are a business owner as
mm-hmm.
well as an investor. You're
Yes,
playing those two roles.
two roles.
So let's break those two things. As a business owner, you are involved in the fashion industry,
Yes, personally.
personally in the fashion industry, and what that entails is you import from Africa and
Yes,
you distribute and sell in the US.
yes,
Okay. On the second side, as an investor, you are involved in, should I say, is it agricultural? Is it in agriculture space?
yes. Agriculture. Yes,
Okay. So as an investor, you are also involved on the continent, in particular Nigeria, where
mm-hmm.
you are developing the agricultural space. And what you're saying is that, so what you're developing, are you going to import it back into the US, or you're just going to develop and distribute on the continent?
Anyway, we have to start from home first. Definitely, we're starting from home. Then, with the intention of exporting going forward. So, definitely, we need like an investor to come in to
Mm-hmm.
help in some other. You understand? So, yeah,
Yes.
yes,
So what is now going on is that, as somebody, you are used to the US market. You have the knowledge of the
knowledge
US
and
market.
skill.
They have the knowledge of their markets.
Markets. Yes,
Yes. So there are two things. Both of you have to change.
mindset.
Mindset. You have to change. They have to change a little. The middle is where the magic happens. Anybody that is
Mm,
rigid, anybody that is rigid, that say my way or the highway, it won't work. If you say
mm,
my way or the highway, and if they say their way or the highway, nothing's going to happen. So
mm,
you're going to give a little, you're going to learn a little. Okay. So part of it is you cannot impose on Africa US way of doing business. You can't. And Africa too cannot impose on US and say, take my product as it is. We don't care what your standards are. So that's part of the struggle. So where we are going to win is to help each other find the middle ground. You have to apply understanding. that you're not about to change the African market. What you're just trying to do is be productive. You want to achieve success. You want your own goals to be achieved. And the best way of achieving your goals is to build partnerships. And the people you are going to build partnerships with, you actually have to come with a little bit of understanding. They have to come to you with understanding. You have to go to them with understanding. Exactly. Because it will remove the frustration on both sides, because we are so worlds apart in mindsets. Like it's night and day. You are frustrating them, they are frustrating you as well. Because when you come, like, I know it, I know how to do it, let me teach you how to do it, they're like, whoa, 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 we've been doing this for a
We are
long
not
time.
ready to learn.
We are not ready to learn.
I can't even read anything right now. I was like, what?
So that's the key. The key is we have to deal with one another in understanding. The diaspora has to go into the continent with understanding. And then also the continent cannot stay in the past, because even those on the continent too, if they don't want to change, then stay where you are. Nobody wants to deal with that. I don't have to deal with that. The world doesn't have to deal with you. They can deal with China. They can deal with Vietnam. They can deal with Mexico. They can. The buyers also have a choice. If you don't tune yourself to the requirements and demands of the buyer doesn't have to buy with you, unless, because part of the challenge Africa has is they've had leverage when it comes to natural resources, gold, diamond, oil. And when you have resources that nobody else, that people cannot easily find anywhere else, in a way you have leverage so you can misbehave. Okay, so there's a lot of misbehavior that, if we're going to say it truly, a lot of Africans are used to behaving a certain way because they think they have leverage. But here's the key: there is no leverage when it comes to agriculture. There's no leverage when it comes to all these other things, other than you have labor, you have land, right? And you are ready to work.
Do the work, doing the work.
Yeah, you have labor, you have land, and you're ready to work. If you're not ready to work, what's going to happen? Nothing. Right? And in order to do work, somebody's got to bring a strategy, a vision. So who is bringing the vision? Right? So if you are the one bringing the vision to your partners on the continent, they have to listen to you. And if they don't want to listen to you, let them stay where they are. So they also have to learn how to welcome visionaries, people who have a view of the future and who want to lead to the future, and who are also bringing finances and relationships to help mature and develop the land, develop the people, and help us achieve, right? Because we all want the same thing: success, wealth. It's about wealth creation. So if you want to build wealth, you have to listen, you have to learn, you have to follow. If you cannot follow leadership, you cannot follow, you cannot take direction, you cannot follow discipline, then that's part of the gap. That's part of the gap. Lack of discipline. Oh, okay. Do I need to repeat myself? I think I saw your chat. You said the connection is breaking. So lack of discipline. When diaspora comes in with vision, with resources, and they want to support and improve, they are also the barest minimum that those on the continent must do is they must be willing to listen, learn, and follow directions. And anybody on the continent that doesn't want that cannot participate. Right? Is that if those on the continent cannot listen, cannot follow, cannot learn, then where are we going? You stay where you are. If you cannot follow those who know the direction, if you cannot listen to those who have a view of the future and they've mapped it out, you can't follow, you can't listen, you can't learn, you will always be stuck where you are, because the requirements for progress, the requirement for advancement, the requirement for achieving success, wealth, is that you have to follow, you have to take action, you have to discipline. And so those are part of the gaps. right? And I'm so happy that Miss Abba said, let's bring her back off. I think the connection is playing games here for her. So if she's able to come back again, this is just an example of a level of frustration that even those on the diaspora, the partnerships and the collaboration that must be established is one of mutual respect, mutual trust in one another. And when there's none of that, nothing happens. I also see Tom, are you back? Do you want to say something? I see you on as well. Do you want to ask a question?
Um, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes. We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Yeah, no, I've been well. The thing is this: I've been having a challenge, but no, I've been bullish in terms of Africa, in terms of doing business. I want to be able to, I guess, export product into the North American market.
Okay.
Uh,
Before you go on, do you want to introduce yourself briefly so we understand the context of what you're sharing? Where are you right now? Where are you joining from? And then if you've done something, attempted something in the past, just give us that backdrop if you may, please. Thank you.
okay, I'm a banker by profession. I work with Citibank in New York, uh, in Wall Street for about 15 years until the financial markets collapsed.
Mm,
I was also at one point raising money from the U.S. market into sub-Saharan Africa.
okay.
So right now I've been in Kenya for about 5 years now.
Okay, good.
And so when I was there, I was kind of like had sticker shock in terms of the pricing around macadamia nuts, chia seeds, and cashew nuts, because there's a big need on that end, meaning that there are many people who have the products here but can't seem to find the market in the US or Canada. And so that is kind of really what I'm attempting to do now. So I've kind of like done a business plan, done my pricing and everything. So then, yeah, so that's kind of really my journey. But I've done a lot of work in Liberia, in Zambia, and also the DRC. And that's kind of really, what I've been doing. But yes, it's being able to look at markets, if you will. But again, it's easier said than done because on one hand, we have tons of stuff, but getting the market there has been the problem.
Mm.
And that's really it.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Have you narrowed down the top one or two challenges you've been facing?
Well, yes, I have. The number one is capital,
Okay.
and then number two is just being able to get the right supply, meaning that if you supply into the likes of Trader Joe's or into Walmarts of the world, those are big, big, big buyers, so I want to be able to find what I call small buyers and then just, keep moving. Because what we've
Okay.
seen is that the majority of the, let's say, cashews, for instance, the Indians and the guys from Vietnam are buying them by the container load, right? And really all that they're doing is just really roasting it and then reselling it back into the US or into China. And what it is the local farmers are not really making any money, if you will. And so I'm
Mm,
looking to get that. That's really my goal, if you will.
okay. So the first thing to watch out for is when you look at what India or China, you cannot compare African maturity in this space. They have had years of perfecting the supply chain.
Right.
This is a space that is at its infancy, baby, learning how to crawl. And so this is one of the struggles many people do. They are comparing the success of those who have been building their space for 40, 50 years. Okay. They are comparing it to something that's many people have even not been able to achieve for Africa. So that's one of the things I want to just quickly temper your expectation. This I don't even know temper, right? Just it's because what I have seen is that many people make a ton of assumptions. They make a ton of assumptions simply because they've been measuring Africa against China, India, Vietnam, right? And that is not true. They're not at the same maturity level. So let's come to reality as of today, African exports. Okay. So once we can leave fantasy alone, let's come to reality. The other thing I want to share with you is this is actually how you grow exports. you have to become a trusted provider, a source, right? That's the first thing. You have to build trust with buyers. Many people don't even attempt, which is why I said at the beginning, the number one challenge is being in proximity and having conversations. Because when you're having conversations with buyers, buyers will tell you what they are looking for. But because people are not having conversations with buyers, they're making assumptions and they are going down a rabbit chase and they come up with nothing. After a year, after 2 years, we come back to the beginning again. Not successful. Because what happens is when you build trust with buyers, and trust is built on your ability, right, to perform. Okay, buyers trust you when they know you can pull it off. And what you say you can pull off, what you say you can bring to the table, and you are able to aggregate, you are able to produce, you are able to supply, you are able to overcome all the barriers that stops people from successfully, right, sourcing, packaging, branding, shipping, and making sure it shows up where it's supposed to show up. So the journey of building trust is buyer is the key, because I work with buyers, I still work with buyers around the world, and I'm telling you, this is what buyers are looking for. Buyers are looking for partners they can trust that will not disappoint them. And when you say, I can supply you ginger, I can supply you macadamia nuts, you're going to say, really? Really? Show me what you've got. So your ability to then also make sure you build relationships on the supply side. So you have to build relationship with the demand side, the buyers. You have to build trust with them. You have to build relationships with them. You have to listen to them because they have demands. They have standards. They have requirements. The buyers always have requirements, because the biggest gap is that Africa has raw. Buyers they have a list of requirements. In the middle is where there's the gap. Third parties must come in to process, to take what is raw and refine it in such a way that will meet the demands of the buyer, the requirements of the buyer. And so part of the challenge is that people will look at the source and say, oh, Africa has this, Africa has that, Africa has this. Fantastic, but not in the form and the format that buyers are interested in. So you find out that many of the players right now will come in, foreign players will have to come in to take what is raw, process it, refine it, do whatever is required, repackage it, and then present it, because it's not the buyer's responsibility to do that work. So part of the relationships mainstream buyers are looking for is somebody who is ready to do all the middle work that is required. What is raw, whether it's raw cashew, whether it's aggregation, because there's a lot of work required for you to meet the requirements. And when people don't want to do that work, nothing happens. So it's about relationships, right? To understand what the requirements are, because the people who are going to pay you and buy any of these things, you have to bet that they know exactly what they are willing to do, and they will not buy anything short of their standards. And so when people don't listen to buyers, and I see this all the time, oh, this, everybody's everywhere, except listening, except learning, except seeking to understand, to say, you are a buyer. What do you buy? What do you want? What quality? What quantity? Right? In what format? Would you be willing? Right? And that in of itself is the engine of transformation, because when you have that trust and you have that requirement, your job now is to go back and you actually plan backwards, because now you know what you're working towards. But most people don't know what they're doing. If you've never spoken to a buyer, you really don't know what you're working towards. Let me stop there and get your reaction.
No, your points are well taken. I think that I said to you, I was in the U.S., I was in D.C., Orlando, and also into Dallas, Texas. And I was kind of like doing my what I call my sales calls in terms of being able to meet people and understanding really what the requirements are. So the thing is this: on one hand, yes, the buyers, but they want to make sure can you really supply what they need and stuff. And so really my homework is to really come back to just make sure that when I'm dealing with the farming groups out of in Kenya specifically, in Kwale or Kilifi and or Lamu, and or going to into Mtwara, I'm able to source what's needed, depending on the seasons, if you will, only then what can actually be done. So that's how really we move. So we have we have a strategy, but I don't want to take time for the group and stuff, but that's how really the way I look. But
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And when you do have that relationship at the buyer level, it's actually easier to attract investments, which is because investors are always looking for investment opportunities. But if you don't have investment opportunities, if what you're just doing is, oh, I think I can do this, I think I can do that. In fact, not just investors, there's something when we talk about trade financing, the relationships we have and those we bring together, they are actually institutions, banks, that the moment you have a commitment of a buyer to buy this, they are actually willing to finance all your trade activities. This is not like real estate. Trade is not like real estate. Because the moment you have a buyer relationship that is solid, that the commitment is solid, and part of also the journey of big brands is, okay, let me break this. Many people want immediate response. But most of the buying behavior, most of the buying patterns that is actually meaningful, that moves anything in the world, it's actually future. The commitments are futuristic. So for example, the entirety of next year and the beginning of 2025 is already locked in, right? Buyers, mainstream buyers, the conversation is not about today, it's not about tomorrow, it's not about 3 months, it's about the next 2 years. So buying decisions, whatever conversation you're having with a buyer today, it's about the next 2 years. The PO they are going to give you is at least maybe 12 months out, because it does take that long for you to get your act together and fulfill demand. They know that. They know that. They know that you can't turn this around overnight. Buyers know that it takes months and years for you to actually aggregate products and services on the marketplace, for you to grow, for you to go to the farm and sow a seed and plant. Buyers buy future yields of farms. They buy future yields so that the farmer can focus on making sure the quality of their yield is perfect, because they've made promises that somebody already bought next season's harvest. Buyers know that nothing happens in international trade overnight, and this is the immature. The amateur is reacting. Oh, next week I can send you this. No, you can't. There's not much you can send me next week. There's not much you can send me next month. There's not much. So the volume buy is months, because it now gives you the time to raise funds, go to your financier, go to your bank, tell them you've made a commitment to supply this for next year. This is the purchase order. In order for me to do the factory, the processing, I need this amount. And banks, export-import banks, that's what they exist for, to finance trade, because it's futuristic. And so this is the whole landscape that has to change and mature. Anybody that is looking for reaction, quick turnaround, that is the amateur stuff. That is the baby infancy of all of these things. Nothing happens at that level. You're just chasing 1 year, 2 years. The majority of the landscape is that people now have to be looking 2 years out and building relationships and having conversations, that is 2 years out, because that's how it works. That's simply how it was. Is you break out, because I managed like apparel sourcing for the biggest retailer in the world, on and on strategy supply chain. That is the only way it works. If I tell you to produce 1 million pieces of anything, it's going to take you months and months and months and months to get it done. It's not overnight. You have to look at your labor, your overhead, your source of supply, because you now have raw materials that have to go to your factory. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes years. So when buyers are negotiating, right, what is being shipped today was what they negotiated 2 years ago. What is going to be shipped next year has already been negotiated. Many of the opportunities that buyers are, conversations buyers, mainstream buyers are having today is not even about next, because what can you do in 3 months and you tell me you're going to bring to January? Not much. There's not much you can do in 3 months in this landscape. Before you go to the farm, particularly even in agriculture, if you don't farm and project what the future is what you are always negotiating on. Because whatever is coming out of the farm today ought to have already been. So I'll start wrapping up now, moving on to my agenda. But I want to thank everybody that has joined. We have classes and courses ready to help you understand, because the gap, the knowledge gap, where there is a lot of failure. Number one, being in proximity, staying connected with the right people. If you're by yourself, there's not much you can do. The strength of your network is important to international trade. Your knowledge capacity is important. Your relationship with trade financing institutions will give it's the strength with which you can go and negotiate. Because when you have a relationship with the bank, particularly export-import banks, right, they will tell you, go and bring commitment to the bank. So whether we're working with US Exim, if you want to export from US to Africa, as example, there's a list of, instruments that is on the table: working capital loans, export insurance. There are many financing instruments that is supposed to de-risk your engagement. So go and watch my interview with Exim Bank. Go and watch that interview with Exim Bank. We have several interviews when we host summit. We bring these leaders to come and educate our community, because people are not informed, they are not educated. That what you are looking for is available. The US government with Exim Bank, they are ready to finance and support you on trade, exporting US to Africa. The same is also true. Every country has an export-import bank. For Nigeria, we have them on our phone. We have those relationships. And also at the continental level with AFCFT, there's also trade financing. So when people don't broaden, you find out that people are just chasing and stressing and fighting because there's no knowledge. So I always want to encourage, we've put these things in classes and courses. Invest in them, invest in knowledge. It will save you years of toil and struggle. So check out those classes at nazaru.trade, www.nazaru.trade. Our events, videos, years of cumulative knowledge of the leaders. Those at the leading front of advancing trade with Africa. We've interviewed them. We've brought them into the room. Even before AFCFTA was ever, right, probably like finalized. The team that put it together, that coordinated with all nations, all heads of all ministries of trade, came, they educated us. The resource is there, the information is there, the video is there in our community. So when anybody says, I know it all, you can only operate on the knowledge you have and the relationship you have. So I always tell people, grow your knowledge, expand your network, right? And then you want resources to expand as well. Those three things, if you don't grow your knowledge, if you don't expand your network, if you don't get into the right room, there's only so much you can achieve. It will slow you down. It will really, really slow you down. And if you want to speed up, you want to achieve success faster, knowledge is the game changer. Absolutely. Knowledge, relationships, capacity, people who have capacity. because there are different types of relationships. I've talked about trade financing institution. You need to have a bank on your side. If you don't, you will only be able to have a conversation based on the resources you have. But when a banker says, we can extend you up until this, go out there. You now have the freedom to go out there and negotiate. Or you cannot negotiate if you don't have capacity. So I'll stop right there. Any parting words I need to close out now, and I thank everybody for joining us. We invite more people to join us. We're hosting series of webinars, we have classes, courses, events, and we help our clients and customers, achieve success fast. Any parting words as I'm closing out now?
No, thank you very much for your time. We look forward to being able to be with you and just, build our individual businesses, and we go from there.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. What I recommend now, between now and the next session, the conversations will improve drastically if you invest in some of the classes we've put together, the cumulative knowledge of years doing this work. I serve on a board of a company. We're the largest private investor in Rwanda. Coffee. We're the largest distributor of coffee in the US. When I tell you that knowledge, learning from people who have done exactly what you are trying to do, listen, will save you years. It's so important. God bless you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.